Hi, hello, I'm Cheryl, and this is episode 13 of the Wholehearted Hub. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different. There's a different vantage point, I'm in a different spot, and we're going to experiment again. I talked at the beginning about how this whole thing is an ongoing experiment. And so today, we're wrapping up the series on vulnerability, and so we're going to do it a little bit differently. We're going to do a mini book review. Fun times. Fun facts about Cheryl. I read a lot. I read a lot of books. And while I would say the majority of what I read is fiction, I read a lot of memoirs. I read also a lot of well-being books. We're going to call it that. It could also be known as self-help style books. It's the nature of the work that I do. I work with people. I'm a coach, and so I'm always doing research on stuff that'll help you and me. So, for our first mini book review in the Wholehearted Hub, I'm going to talk about a book that I read years ago, years and years ago, and it's really stuck with me. I've returned to it a few times. And at one point, I called it, I would say, my Bible. And before I introduce what the book is, I will also say that, as with a lot of books like this, the old version of me would read the book, be like, oh, yeah, that's brilliant, call it my Bible, and then not actually implement any of the things that I learned in the book. And I've changed a lot of that as I've transformed my life and changed how I live my life and the things that I apply in my life and the learning that I have in my life. But I definitely acknowledge that it's one thing to read about something, appreciate it, and it's another to put things that you learn into practice to improve the way you operate. It's like anything. Go to a conference, you learn some cool things, and you go back to your regular way of doing things. And maybe some little light bulb will come on once in a while and be like, oh, yeah, here's where I could apply that. So I would encourage you, like anything that resonates with you, little things that you want to make change, give it a try. Try it on. Try it on like you're trying on a sweater or a swimsuit. We've talked about that before. Okay, so our mini book review for the final episode of Vulnerability is by the queen herself, Brene Brown. This is going to show up backwards, but it's Daring Greatly by Dr. Brene Brown. And I'm going to also put a little caveat in here that regardless of your feelings about Brene Brown, not everybody loves her. And that's fine. This is on this YouTube channel, everyone is welcome. Every perspective, every vantage point, every view is welcome. It doesn't mean that we'll agree. We don't have to agree. That's the beauty of humanity. We all have different perspectives and experiences. And I personally am a really big fan of Brene Brown and her work and her research, and also just how authentic she is about the fact that she isn't always good at this stuff either. But if you don't like her, I would just ask that you, for the next 5 minutes, set aside your feelings about the individual, like the researcher of the work, and just have a listen of what these are just my takeaways. You might totally disagree with them. Just have a listen of what these takeaways are and see if anything resonates with you and take that. It doesn't always matter who the person who wrote it is. So if you can do that, I thank you in advance. I'm going to give you my key takeaways from this book. And a little disclaimer, I haven't read it in a while, but I flipped through it and I was reminded of some of the really big things that have informed my thoughts on things. I have read it since making the change in my life. So these are very relevant and probably repetitive of things that I've already said on this YouTube channel. So my key takeaways. Number one, we are all afraid. We're all afraid. It could be of things that we carry a lot of shame around, or things that we dream of but think are unattainable for us, the people that we love and something happening to them. Maybe you're a parent of a child and you worry about them, going out at night or playing down the street where you can't see them. It could be the risk of hurt that we might experience if we let go of control of something. You name it, we all have fear. And it's how you use the knowledge of that fear that counts. If you go back to episode 1, which is actionable steps to identify your fears, it really encourages you to like go into them and see what they are and where do they come from. So the knowledge of our fears is really powerful, but we've all got them. The second thing is there are a million ways to mask, distract, and protect ourselves from those things that we see as risk or uncertainty or things that we're afraid of. Some of them, even while looking vulnerable. Protection can be a very sneaky little mistress. She can mask herself in a lot of different ways. And so we can sometimes believe that we're showing up vulnerably, but we really aren't. It's a mask, it's protection, it's a part of us that shows up to be like, oh, yeah, I got this. I'll pretend. They won't have any idea what's really going on inside of me. And with that, we can selectively numb, we can selectively protect, selectively distract. But the truth is, you cannot selectively numb, distract, or protect. If you numb yourself from the things that you fear, you also numb yourself from joy. And foreboding joy, I don't know if she coined that term, but it's profoundly stuck with me. Foreboding joy doesn't work. How many people say to you, like, oh, I'm going to try not to get excited, and that way I won't be more disappointed? It doesn't work that way. You can't trick yourself into believing that you don't want something and that way not be disappointed if you don't get it. And so, why not enjoy the joy of being excited about something? And that way you can experience the joy or the sorrow of however it turns out. But just appreciating and accepting it for what it is. We can't selectively numb, we can't selectively protect, but we try. And there's a million ways to do it. And so try catching yourself with the ways that you protect or select or numb to distract from what's really going on inside of you. And the last thing that I will say as a key big takeaway is what you believe or like what I believe, think, or feel is really all that matters. What's inside of you is really all that matters. But we often look outside, we look externally for validation, belief, confidence, whatever it might be, criticism, evidence that we're not good enough. We look outside for a lot of those things, but like what is actually true inside of you? And it could be that you think that you're not good enough. It could be that you think that you can't have those things. And that's where the power starts. One of the core tenets of this book is the Theodore Roosevelt quote, "The man in the arena." So I'm going to read it to you because if this is the only thing you take away from this episode, so be it. It's a good one. I have my trusty phone here. I'm going to read it to you. The man in the arena. It is not a critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. I love that quote so much. And the power of knowing is like, if you're the one that's going to step into the arena, if you're the one that's willing to be vulnerable, if you're the one that's willing to show up and be authentic, that's all that matters. People are going to criticize you, people are going to have their thoughts about you. It doesn't matter. You are the only thing that matters. What is important to you? What you believe, what you think, what you value. What you value is the only thing that matters. And your people will show up for you, will show up for that. And if you believe and show up for yourself and all of those things first, it will all work out the way it's supposed to. And I know I sound like such a bright sider, and I am. I am. You create it. You create your dreams and make them come true for yourself. And if that means inviting people into the arena with you, that's amazing too, because that is also vulnerable. And so we're closing out this series on vulnerability. It'll show up again, of course, it's very important. But with that reflection of like, what does this quote mean to you? What are you stepping into the arena for? What's worth it? Other than you, you are worth it. But what are the things that you want that are worth stepping into that spotlight and letting the people in the stands think what they want? As always, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And don't forget to like and subscribe. It means the world to me. And that way you never miss an episode.